Welcome to Sober Sunrise, a podcast bringing you AA speaker meetings with stories of experience, strength, and hope from around the world. We bring you several new speakers weekly, so be sure to subscribe. Whether you join us in the morning or at night, there's nothing better than a sober sunrise. We hope that you enjoy today's speaker.
This is a motley crew here, I tell you. This is something else. My name is Chris Kramer. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I am honored to be here. Before I get going, because I talk a little fast, since they're doing this, I'm going to try to talk slow tonight. But I'm probably going to fail pretty miserable at it. So somebody may need to come spell her in a few minutes. I wear them out pretty fast. But I want to thank Jody for letting us come up here. Patty and I came up. Patty's my soon-to-be wife. Can you believe this stuff? You'd think we'd learned something in sobriety, but this will be my third shot at this experiment called marriage, and I'm looking forward to it. I think so. Patty and I got on a plane in San Antonio this morning. We didn't actually get on the plane. We were sitting there in the airport, and then they canceled it, and there was some mechanical problem or something. It was going to be a big delay, so we got on another plane. I need to thank Scotty and Lisa for coming and just hanging around the airport all day long, waiting for us to get there. And bless their hearts, they did. I bless them. Geez, I wouldn't have done it, I promise you. But it was nice to be and driving all the way out here. I didn't realize that we were 10 hours away from Chicago. I didn't. What a place. What a deal. We couldn't have asked for better weather. And I want to mention a couple of things. First off, I just feel like I owe y'all an apology because I don't know a freaking thing about motorcycles. You know, I don't know. Patty spent some time. Patty used to have a motorcycle. She used to ride when she was out there drinking, and that's all I want to know that she did when she was out there drinking. And she was trying to give me some pointers on the way over here. You know, soft tail, hard tail. You know, the closest I've ever gotten to a Harley, in fact, is the Harley insignia tattooed on her butt. That's Sorry, Patty. I know, really. Any of y'all got an extra sleeping bag? I have a feeling I will be needing it. We probably won't be in that motel room tonight. I'm honored to be here. I sobered up November 13th, 1987, and I need to tell you, a lot of y'all have heard tapes of mine and CDs and stuff, and like I said, we laugh about it. The roads of this country are littered with those CDs. You know, if you happen to be a big book thumper, and you believe in the power of God, and you believe in a clear message that's out of that big book, then we're friends for life, you know. And if you happen to be one of those buckaroos that maybe came from a treatment center that didn't talk a lot about it, and you're just sitting in meetings talking about your shit, you're going to hate my guts. In about 45 more minutes, you're going to want to have a chat with me out beside one of these motorcycles. And I'm with you. And guys, bless your hearts. I really want to get this clear before we get started, because what I'm supposed to do up here is I'm supposed to share my experience, and my experience may be real different than your experience. Can y'all get down with that? So I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're wrong. And some of my passion comes from the fact that I nearly died getting to this fellowship. I dried up. I mean, I drank alcohol for a long, long time, and about 19 years, and I had some stuff we called alcohol enhancers that entered into the picture long before, during that process. And, I shoved enough white stuff up my nose to be Mr. Snowman forever, and it's like, this stuff just led me to the brink of disaster about 1980. It was costing me a marriage and a bunch of businesses. I had 2 businesses that I threw in the toilet because of that stuff. And I really needed to get sober, and I wanted to get sober. And I walked into some meetings and couldn't hear the solution. And I spent 7 years trying to get well, folks. And that's the only place I'm coming from. I do clerical work at a treatment center in Texas. And I listen to more crap coming out of people's mouths about how to get sober than I can shake a stick at. And I watch a lot of people come through our hospital, and the first thing, is, well, how are we going to get well? I said, well, we're going to get well by doing the 12 steps. And they get up, they get their stuff, and get ready to leave. I says, I ain't working those stupid 12 steps. Here's what they say. I have been to AA. It doesn't work. You follow me? Am I dealing with some people that didn't want to get sober to begin with? Absolutely. But the thousands of people that I deal with, a lot of those people wanted to get sober and couldn't get sober in our fellowship. And this is what grinds some of you. You're taking shots at AA. You know, guys, I got to tell you, I love every one of you. And I got a 14-year-old stepson that's going to need this program. And I think somebody ought to be taking some shots at some of our meetings that have gotten so toxic it's not even funny. And if that hadn't run you off yet, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So you might want to get a cup of coffee and go to time for dinner. Tell us the truth. But y'all understand the truth. The truth is as Chris sees it. I mean, this is from my perspective. This is where I am. I nearly died getting to this thing, and I'm passionate about recovery. I travel a lot. I need to tell you, I'm limping around like an old man. I'm not that old yet, but well, that's not true. I'm going to be 50 in a couple of months. Can you believe that shit? Come on, 50. I mean, I never intended to be 50. This is nuts. I was in Iceland a couple of months ago doing this deal over there for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was honored to get a chance to go to that beautiful island and meet those people and to do some workshops over there. As I'm walking through the streets of Reykjavik, I stepped off a curb and broke my right foot, and I'm limping around. Just got healed. I ride another two-kind-of-wheeled vehicle called a bicycle, folks. I'm a competitive bicyclist, and that's as close as we're going to get, I'm sure. But the other night, a couple of weeks ago, I don't even want to tell you this, but some of y'all, I was trying to step on a big bug in my living room and slid underneath a chair and broke my left foot. So I'm limping around. So if I get up to hug you and I'm a little standoffish, it's because I can't put my full weight into it. So y'all bear with me. Stupid roach. Okay. I need to tell you a little bit here. I got to show you this first before I forget, because I was going to. In Texas, we got a lot of problems in Texas with people trying to beat P tests. Y'all know what P tests are? Any of y'all ever been in trouble with the law? And I wish I had copies of this. I'd pass them out. Y'all get a good laugh. But y'all can come see this little article. We got it off the internet a couple of months ago. This is a new thing that they've just come out with. Now, some of y'all may own one of these. If you do, I'd like to see it. It's called the Whizzinator. My book says, given sufficient reason, can you stop drinking? And that's the key piece here. Given sufficient reason, can you stop drinking or stop drugging? Okay? But here's something for those of us that don't seem to be able to stop drinking, but we're in trouble with the law and we need to try to beat a P test. This is it resembles a little athletic supporter. It's clear, and it's got a little plastic pee-pee on it. See? And you can wear this thing. Of course, you got to put somebody else's pee in it, and then when you go do a pee test, you can use this. Now, some of y'all don't find this amusing at all. You ought to see some of you that look deer in the headlight. What's he talking? Guys, I called this company to check on it. It's $150 for this. Y'all follow me? This is high dollar deal. I asked them specifically how big the pee-pee was, because I thought we might be able to have some fun with it, But I mean, you got to say, can you stop drinking or drugging, or do you need to go get a Whizzinator? I mean, this ought to be the key that we ask the newcomer, not how many DWIs you've got. Are you willing to wear a plastic jock strap full of somebody else's piss? Because if you're willing to do that, buddy, you're an alcoholic. Unbelievable. One of the things that kills me about speaking around the country, and I do get a chance to speak lots of different places, but it says no matter, seems like where I speak, there's a group of you that are little big book thumpers that have had an experience with God and you're passionate about the fellowship, and there's always a group of you that are kind of sitting on the sidelines, usually always sober a long period of time, but not working the steps. And they're the ones that want to take exception with what I'm saying. So all I'm going to say is I'm going to be here till Sunday, and I don't have anything to do at all tomorrow since I don't ride a motorcycle, and I'm just going to sit around the camp and take abuse from y'all all day long. So y'all can come gang up on me and tell me how I was wrong up here from the podium. But here's the deal. How many of y'all, a lot of y'all went to treatment perhaps to get sober, and a lot of you guys just got sober in the fellowship, and I think most of you in this room have read the big book or Narcotics Anonymous at one time or another, the basic text. But let me run something by you. How many of you guys actually think that alcoholism and drug addiction is a disease? Raise your hand. It is a disease. Did you hear the trap closing? So let me ask you a question. Why is it then, when we go into our AA meetings, we talk about everything else under the sun except that? Just freaks me. Alcoholism is either a disease or it's a behavioral problem. Now, what is it? You know, I get a bad rap up here. You know, I got these little issue man buttons. I got some up here. I'll flip them to you if y'all want some. But it's this little issue man, and on the outside of it, y'all can see him closer. He's got issue woman's coming off the press next week. I got a little for equal opportunity. But on the outside, they got these little X's to indicate issues. You know, and like, how many of you guys in here right now got an issue that's grinding your teeth? You're pissed about. I'm sitting in a room. I got one honest son of a bitch in the whole place right back here. The rest of you guys are lying. And that's what I'm telling you, and that's what we want to go into meetings and talk about endlessly. And it drives me nuts. These cats that come to the hospital, I get them to talk to them. I said, buddy, why are you so against AA? I've been out there for 10 years, and here's what they say every single time. Listen, buddy, if I got to go back into those meetings and listen to one more long-winded talker speaking about their war stories, and then when we finish with their war stories, we flip right over into the problem du jour, the problem of the day, I'm going to cut my throat. And I'm sitting there and says, buddy, we need to come at this with a new attitude. And then I'm thinking in the back of my mind, yeah, just like you in 1980 when you stormed out of that first AA meeting because you couldn't get to the solution. 7 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, never been able to put more than 30 days together because I could not sit in the toxic meetings that were in North Texas. Let me tell you what happened to me. In 1976, it was earlier than that, 71, Bill Wilson. When did Bill Wilson? Bill Wilson died in 71, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. The same year, the winter he died, I picked up my first bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine and started drinking. Some of y'all drink that? Some of y'all still drinking it tonight, probably. Got one stashed out there. There's always one that shows up at one of these gatherings that's loaded to the gills. And Boone's Farm apple wine, and I'm telling you, we drank it, and it fixed something inside me, and it changed who I was. And I remember I was drinking it with another kid from high school, and he spit that stuff out, and he says, I cannot believe you're drinking that. That's the nastiest tasting stuff. And he says, I'm going home. And he headed out back across the field, and I said, buddy, does that mean this is all mine? It's like, you're not going to drink anymore? And I grabbed hold of that bottle, and it was one of those little pint things, and it wasn't a big one. And I killed that bastard, and I went home, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I picked up the phone and called every girl I knew in high school. I mean, listen, y'all think I'm homely now? I'm going to tell you something. In high school, I was homely. They did not want to talk to me, and they dang sure didn't want to talk to me at 11 o'clock at night. But I felt so good inside. You follow me? That stuff fixed what was wrong with me. See, nobody was there to tell me that what that stuff did was treat a thing called a spiritual malady. It didn't change any of my problems out there. It changed my internal world. Y'all down with that? And that set me on a journey for the next 19 years. And see, here's what made it confusing, because I was a professional chef. I went through an apprenticeship program soon thereafter and got certified as a chef, and I was quite successful in my career. So I had periods of time in the next 18 years when I was making some big whip. I was making some good money. I was amassing some property. I was doing some cool things with my life. But then I would have those times because of the thing called, you're down with this one, the phenomena called craving that the doctor's opinion talks about. And because of that phenomena called craving, sometimes I would overdrink. Can y'all believe that? I get people come up to me all the time that want to eat me talk to me about getting on some committee. Chris, we've got this national committee started and we want you to be on it. I says, what's the committee about? We want to stamp out drugs and alcohol. Wouldn't even consider showing up for the first meeting. Why would I want to stamp out the one thing that saved my life? See, guys, we've got to all get clear here. The alcohol and the drugs is not the problem, never has been the problem. The alcohol and drugs was the solution. That's why it's so tough. That's why I would rather wear a plastic jock strap than give it up. Y'all with us? That's why when I lose the first and second marriage, that's why when I lose the businesses, that's when I start to lose my health, I still make excuses to go back and do it because the stuff fixes what's wrong with me. Guys, there's only a small percentage of people like us. Bless us. We've got a lot of stuff that holds us in common. We've got a lot of similar interests and stuff. I know that. But the one thing that holds us together is this inability to stop when we want to. Here's what the book says on page 34. If y'all got a copy of it, this is one of the best lines in the book, and I wish somebody in 1980 had read it to me. They didn't, because nobody really cared if I stayed or went in 1980. They asked me the one question, Chris, you got a problem with alcohol and drugs? Uh-huh. Well, you're welcome. Stay. Well, but I don't think I'm a real alcoholic. That's okay. Just stick around anyway. Maybe you'll find out. Geez, thanks for that passionate 12-step call. You follow me? Because the truth of the matter is they were too busy trying to get back to their domino game and they didn't want to waste time with me. That's the truth. This could have saved my life on page 34. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. And for you people from Narcotics Anonymous or cocaine, we'll just substitute the word drug. I'm with you. We're assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he's going to drink or not. That's the baffling feature of alcoholism and drug addiction. The utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. Everybody in this room at a certain times have really wanted to stop. And we really needed to stop. And we found we couldn't do it on our own power. That's what alcoholism and drug addiction is. And it's fatal and it's progressive and it kills us by the millions. And 68 years ago, we got the solution to it. And that's where my passion comes from, because nobody seems to want to talk about the solution because they're too busy sitting in meetings trying to sound hip, slick, and cool with their little chicken shit one-liners. Y'all know the one-liners I'm talking about? Just don't drink no matter what. How's that one? Buddy, if I could do that, I wouldn't be in AA. Think through the drink. My book tells me on page 24, there's going to come a time I'll get caught in that mental blank spot and I won't remember the consequences of even a week or a month ago. I just do it. Guys, we're dealing with insanity here. We're dealing with a real tangible disease. We're not dealing with a behavioral problem. And everybody wants to try to treat alcoholism with therapy. Alcoholism can't be, the book just said on page 34, it can only be treated by one way. And that's spiritual connection. The spiritual means. I'm not knocking therapy. I think anybody that can afford to go to a therapist needs to see one. I see a therapist today. But a therapist can't fix this disease. It's like being allergic to a food, for heaven's sakes. If you're allergic to avocado and every time you eat avocado it makes you sick, then you just don't eat avocado, right? But if you keep eating avocado, what you've got is something psychiatric wrong with you. You need to be locked up someplace so that you won't die from eating avocado. Simple enough? It's the same thing. Does it mean that I don't also need some help therapeutically with a divorce? Or the adoption, or whatever's going on in your life that you're going through, maybe some good therapy would help you. But guys, we got to get on the same page. The book said, we just read it and how it works. No human power could relieve what's wrong with me. Perhaps God could and would if He were sought. And that was my experience. But in 1980, when I got to the fellowship, nobody wanted to talk to me about that. Listen guys, they were so afraid to use the word God with me in the meetings because they were afraid it would scare me off. We're going to tiptoe around the most deadly disease in the world because we're worried about somebody's chicken shit little feelings. We're going to give them a bald-faced lie right to the front and tell them, keep coming back, everything will be okay. Well, I got news for you folks. You just keep coming back and you don't work these steps, everything is not going to be okay. Everything is going to be a world of shit. You think alcoholism and drug addiction is just what happens when you put alcohol or drugs in your body. Guys, how many of us have experienced this? How many of you have seen it in our fellowships? People that have long-term sobriety, they don't have any alcohol or drugs in their body, but they're certifiably nuts. Y'all follow me? We all sit in meetings with them. I've been there myself. It's like, I haven't had a drink for 6 months. Why do I want to kill that person? It's like, I'm Psycho Man. If you could see what was in my mind, you would lock me up. That's the spirit. Guys, here's what the book describes as the spiritual malady. This is the root of alcoholism and drug addiction. This is what separates us from the other world out there of normies. The book talks, in the doctor's opinion, it talks about being irritable, restless, and discontent. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. How about depressed, bored, anxious, no sense of direction, feeling of uselessness, this almost irresolvable insecurity. Y'all follow us? This absolute need for human approval. You'll follow us? You're always trying to please somebody else. You'll follow us? That's the stuff that the book talks about. Now guys, when I take a bottle of a quart of beer, you'll follow me? Go do a little bump. Ask me the questions after I've had a quart of beer. Chris, you irritable, restless, and discontent? Absolutely not. Trouble in personal relationships? No. In fact, I think I can help you with yours. Isn't that right? Come on, God. We've all done it. You give me some booze and a little cocaine, and I'm out there starting businesses and doing the work. You see, I'm not using alcohol and drugs to party. A lot of us in this room started drinking and drugging to party down. But we got to a place where it wasn't about partying down. It was about just getting right so we could get through the day. You follow us? I want to go drink a little alcohol and maybe eat a pill or two, and then I'm going to go to work. I'm not going to go take the day off. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to balance my checkbook. I'm going to wash my clothes. I'm going to try to be a good father. I'm going to try to be a good husband. I'm going to get through the day. You follow me? But I need that substance in me to make me okay inside. And that's what normal people don't understand. And I'm going to tell you this. That's what the newcomer doesn't understand. That 19-year-old kid that's been out there shooting dope and drinking like a fiend for the last 3 or 4 years is walking into the meeting, and he needs to hear that. He doesn't need to hear that he's going through some adolescent phase and that some little therapy is going to fix him. He needs to hear the truth that he's the real McCoy. In 1982, I had spent some time quite successful in my career. I'd also spent some time eating out of dumpsters in Houston, Texas. I couldn't figure out this little, this highs and lows of this thing, but the one constant thing with me was booze. I mean, it was always there. And when I was eating out of dumpsters, it was there. And when I was doing the other stuff, thanks so much. Is this the one with the Spanish fly in it? Okay. I've been taking coffee from people from the podium for years. I wonder how many boogers I've drank, Here, you little big book thumper son of a bitch here. I'll get even with you. That's okay. I'm watching the time too, guys. Okay, so 1982, I got in a little domestic disturbance with my first wife, and it was one of those things that I said I'd never do. It's like writing hot checks. It's like coming in late at work. Had a good work ethic. It's like I wouldn't get rough with a woman. I wouldn't treat her with disrespect. And that's the way I was raised. That's the way I was brought up. And we had a little pushing match one night. It was just, I can't minimize it. The stuff coming out of my mouth was far more harmful than my shove against her shoulder. But it was a nasty scene, and the cops came, and I was scared to death and embarrassed, and she was freaked out. And I'll never forget that night as long as I live, because I remember going back in a couple hours later, and she said, Chris, she said, you've never acted this way before. I've seen you out of control at parties, and I've seen you act like a nutcase, but you've never gotten personal with me like that. I says, what happened? And I told her straight. I wasn't an idiot. I drank too damn much, and I did too much drugs. I was off the page. She said, well, Chris, then if you really love me, why don't you stop? And I got to tell you something, folks. I told her straight, with tears in my eyes, the most solemn oath I'd ever made. I'll never touch another drop. No. I'm going to tell you something, folks, because I hear it in meetings all the time. Well, he just ain't ready to quit. I'm going to tell you something, folks. I've been ready to quit 1,000,000 times. And when I told that woman I would never do it again, just like a bunch of y'all in this audience, you meant it. You meant it when you told the judge, and you meant it when you told your boss, and you meant it when you told your family. You meant it when you looked at those kids down on your knees, looking them straight in the eye. I'll never do it again. You meant it. The problem is you didn't understand that you didn't have the power on your own to not do it again. I didn't touch another drop for 2 weeks. And some mullet says, Chris, you want to go down here and eat a little Mexican food? And I said, yeah. And I watched the first pitcher go by, and then I watched the second pitcher go by. And they said, Chris, just one, for heaven's sakes. It's not like we're going out on the town. I said, yeah, you're right. And I drank one drink. I drank a beer. And I drank one more. And I went home, and she could tell I'd been drinking, and she went to the bedroom and packed. Because you see, my promise with her was that not that I wouldn't get drunk anymore. My promise with her is that I wouldn't touch another drop. And I did it anyway. And that's a pattern with me. She was a good egg. She's a nice lady. See, people got us made out that we're all Billy Badass meanies. That we're psychos. Buddy, we're suffering from a disease that makes us crazy if we don't put that stuff in our system. Unfortunately, because of the phenomenon of craving, sometimes we overdo it, and now we're crazy because of that. So the only solution is to just get completely away from it. But also the solution is you've got to get spiritually connected, so something's got to treat that internal condition. Alcoholism and drug addiction is the only disease I know that will kill you whether the substance is in your body or not. More of us commit suicide sober than we do out there drinking. Because life doesn't get better for Chris Raymer when he lays the booze down. Life gets worse. All of us in this room are blessed with a thing called grace period, I believe, when we first get to this fellowship. And this is what's so confusing for a lot of people. I believe a lot of us that make a commitment to stay sober and come into our meetings are blessed with a thing called grace. It's God's grace. Some assholes out there want to call it a pink cloud. I think anybody that wants to talk about an absolute gift and make a joke out of it and call it a pink cloud is a moron. That's personal with me. Because when you're experiencing it, it's a very real experience, and it may be the only time in adulthood that you've ever felt that way. And it's a real thing, and it's attainable on a regular basis. But after a period of time, grace period goes away, and then this irritable, restless, and discontent crap starts coming back, and we're faced with a dilemma. I can't imagine life with it or without it. Y'all follow me? The pain of staying sober starts to gradually outweigh the benefits, and before you know it, I'm in that place of insanity again, and I go use again. And we do it over and over until we die or get locked up. So what's the solution? The solution, just like Bill Wilson said in the very early pages of the Big Book, you got to have a spiritual experience. That should be the only topic of discussion in an AA meeting. Spiritual experience. The 12 steps. But I guarantee you, thanks to treatment centers and a bunch of well-meaning people, we've gotten so far off that page it's not even funny. Alcoholics Anonymous, for the first time in 68 years, in the last 2 years, we have dwindled in numbers, not increased. We've dwindled in numbers because people are not staying sober in our fellowships. How many of y'all sat in meetings and watched people relapse over and over and over again? Talking to Scotty on the way over here, both of us had the same experience. Coming into meetings, listening to the stupid discussion topics, and not being able to get well. Why should you be able to get well? Nobody in the place said that if you walked into a meeting and talked about your chicken shit problem, you'd get well. Because my external stuff is not the problem. How many of y'all, we do this every time I speak from the podium, how many of you cats in this room, in this gathering here, ever drank when you had lots of money? Raise your hand if you ever drank when you had lots of money. How many when you drank a drug when you had no money? Same hands. What's up? How many when you lived in a big city? Little crappy town. Had a great job. No job. Here's the kicker. How many when you had a great relationship with somebody that you really loved? How many when you was dating Satan's sister? Still am. Well, next time you relapse, though, little brother, make sure you don't blame her for it, because it ain't going to fly in this group, I guarantee you. Guys, then why is it that when we go to our AA meetings, that's all we want to talk about? Here's the other thing that kills me. I got to wind this down. I got to tell you what happened to me. Here's the other thing that kills me. We go into a meeting, and the first thing out of somebody's mouth is, well, you know, I had to come to believe when I got to this fellowship that I was powerless over people, places, and things. Any of y'all hear that? Let me tell you something. With all the respect I can muster, that is absolute crap. I am powerless over people, places, and things. That is treatment center crap. Listen, guys, I got to tell you something. The book uses the word powerless one time. We read it tonight and how it works. I'm powerless over alcohol and drugs. Can y'all get down with that? But I got a solution to it. It's called the spiritual experience. Other than that, I am not powerless. I make choices every day to better my life. I got the power to... Listen, folks, the book says on page 45, it says, lack of power, that's the dilemma. Now, how are we going to find some power? Well, that's what the book is about. Its main object is to show you how you can find a power greater than yourself to allow you to have enough power to go do what? It doesn't say just not drink. So you can go get the credit cards back, folks. So you can go take care of your kids. So you don't have to date Satan's sister anymore. Dig? So you can get you a cool job and make some money. So you can go start the garden or get a business or whatever you wanted to go do. We are not powerless people. You think for a second that I'd dodge the alcohol and drug bullet just so I could sit in a room full of people and talk about how screwed up my life is? I'm going to tell you this, folks. And if you hear nothing else I say tonight, you've got to hear this. I understand that a lot of y'all in this gathering are going through tough times. You know, that's one of the things about life. You know, it's just life with or without alcohol sometimes is just a bitch. You know, it's just life is tough. You know, sometimes the kids get sick, and the job goes south, the family. There's just a lot of stuff that can make life tough. Y'all with me? That's why we need this fellowship. That's why we need the program, so that all of us can get tapped into that power that's going to allow us to deal with that stuff. I introduced myself as a recovered alcoholic. Chris Raymer, I'm a recovered alcoholic. Let me tell you what happened. Which one was the Spanish fly? This one. You Yankees, y'all don't know what Spanish Fly is, do you? Never mind. All right. I know I'm talking to the wrong group. Y'all all know what that is. No. Here. I'm ship and I can't get sober. Nobody's going to talk to me about the big book. Nobody's going to talk to me about the steps. And I'm just going to meetings doing the same thing a lot of y'all are doing. I'm walking in. I'm talking about my crappy day. I'm leaving. I'm feeling better because I've talked about it. That's a therapeutic event that takes place. But I'm not getting any closer to having that spiritual experience. And basically what I've done is wasted a whole bunch of people's time talking about my crap. Y'all follow us? I've never really understood. Our primary purpose says that we have a singleness of purpose in Alcoholics Anonymous. Primary purpose says, we've got one job here, that's to stay sober and carry the message to the alcoholic that still suffers. Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, we've got the same traditions. Primary purpose, stay sober, help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. You follow us? It always amazes me. We'll go into an AA meeting and there'll be some little dope fiend in there wanting to talk about his drugs, and we'll get some old timer in there wanting to shut him down in a heartbeat. Now, I'm with the traditions. I believe singleness of purpose is there for a reason. You follow us? I'm down with that, but we don't have any problem telling him to shut up about cocaine. But the next lady that wants to share wants to talk about that freaking divorce one more time. And we all just sit back and just go ahead. Now, where's our singleness of purpose? Do I think you need to talk about the divorce? Yes. Come before the meeting. Let's talk about it. Stay late. Let's talk about it. Let's go to Denny's. Talk about it. But Jesus, guys, we got one stinking hour to get together and talk about the power of God, and we're going to sit and listen to you piss and moan about your day one more time? I got to ask you the question. If the book says on page 62 that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem, isn't that the ultimate selfish and self-centeredness, to go into a room of 60 people and dominate the meeting talking about my crap? When you've got a newcomer sitting on the front row that doesn't understand the physical allergy or the mental obsession or the spiritual malady. He's dying of alcoholism. But we're not going to get around to helping him because we're too busy trying to play junior freaking therapist for you. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, guys. We need to talk about the stuff that's going on in our life. That's what sponsorship's about. That's what friends in our fellowships are about. For a stupid hour during the day, can't we just focus on the topic? The big book, the solution, the power. That's why we can't keep the young adults in the meeting. God bless them. Why should they come in a meeting and listen to us talk about powerlessness every day? Try to tell an 18-year-old kid full of testosterone that he's powerless. That's stupid. It's pointless. Why don't we tell him about the cool shit that's happening in our life? In 1987, I went to I was working for my brother up in Louisville, Texas, North Texas, and I can't cook anymore. I've lost my certification, and the depression's choking me. I'm taking 7 or 8 antidepressants, pills a day. Anxiety disorder, bipolar, anything you can diagnose me with that had depression stuck to it, I had, and I'm taking all these pills to try to treat it. And it's getting kind of funky in my life because the pills ain't working, and I'm still drinking like a son of a gun on them, and so it has a tendency not to work real well. But I remember driving home one cold, it was on a Thursday night, and it's colder than hell up in North Texas, and I'm driving home, and it's real overcast outside, and I pull up to my little apartment. I live in a little efficiency apartment in Louisville by myself, and I got a little $600 pickup truck I'm driving around, and I go get the mail, and there's a bunch of return checks in there, and I'm sitting there in my little apartment. I got no furniture, and the girl's left. She's gone, long time. She went back to her wife-beating husband, and that's how unwholesome I was. I had nothing to offer anybody, and I remember looking at myself in the bathroom mirror. I went to pee and sitting there looking at myself in the mirror, and I weigh about 200 pounds, and it's all right here in the front, and I'm dying. My liver's shutting down, and I'm yellow, and I got bushy beard and hair, and I reached in the medicine cabinet and got a couple bottles of pills, and I've been trading for Go Fast stuff, and I don't like to go down. I'm not an opiate addict. I can't understand why anybody would take opiates. What is it about walking around drooling all day long? I don't understand what that's about. It's like, I've never understood how people can smoke pot. That's the most useless drug in the world. Fucking smoke pot. Listen, guys, it makes you horny and paranoid all at the same time. That's a terrible comment. No, it really. I can drink a case of beer and go to work. Let's go, guys. You know, but I smoke a half a joint and I go hide in the closet. I mean, I'm just naked. You know, it's a terrible place to be. You know, the pizza guy knocks on the door to deliver the pizza that you just ordered 30 minutes ago and you can't remember it. You think he's a CIA operative, you know? I mean, y'all all had experiences like this. This is nuts. It's not fun. It's just not a good life, you know? You spend all your time hiding, looking people, nuts. That night I took the pills and I took some alcohol and I said, I'm going to die. You know, and I laid down to die and I heard a voice that said, guys, this is my story. This is what... I heard a voice that said, don't do it. Go back to AA. Guys, I don't know what I heard. I've said it on a million tapes. I could have heard the guy's vacuum cleaner next door. You know, what I heard was, Chris, don't do it. Go back to AA. I'm arguing with this voice. I ain't ever going back to AA. I'm 7 years in AA. I'm a meeting maker, make it fool, and I can't get sober. I'm not going to go back to AA. It doesn't work. If I have to sit in a meeting and listen to one more stupid long war story or one more pissing and moaning contest, I'm going to cut my throat anyway. I'm just not going back. Chris, don't do it. Go back to AA. Oh, shit. Got up, got sick, aborted the attempt, laid down. Next morning I got up, still with the conviction that I was going to try this one more time. I went to a doctor, got some detox meds, and went to a 6 o'clock AA meeting in Louisville, Texas. And I walked in the back door of that AA meeting, and it was just like a meeting that a million y'all have been to. It was a long shotgun meeting, and there was about 40 people in this room. They were all smoking cigarettes. It's the kind where the ceiling, as the meeting goes, starts dropping, you know, because the smoke's still, ducking down. And I walk into this meeting, and guys, I got to tell you something. It was like God's sense of humor. They're all carrying big books. And I remember thinking as I walked, they're laughing, you know, they smell good, they're pretty, and they're all laughing, and they're all carrying big books. I said, God, of all the meetings I could go to up in the Metroplex, I got to go to a damn big book thumper meeting. I said, like, what am I doing here, you know? And I walk in, and somebody says, hey, Chris, welcome back. And he embarrassed me. You know how we are so sensitive, you know? And I took a step back, and there was a little girl, it was a 19-year-old girl that was standing between me and the back door. And she hooked her finger in my belt loop and said, sit down, cowboy. She didn't have a clue who she was messing with, I got to tell you. You call me a lot of things, but cowboy ain't one of them. You know what I'm saying? And I got a reputation to uphold here. And I just, you know, it's like, what are you doing? And it turned out her sponsor had given her the high sign because she couldn't get over to me in time. And she could see that I was backing out the door, and she said, get him. And this little 19-year-old girl, doing what she was supposed to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, got me. And she grabbed my belt loop and she said, that's why I get cranky when everybody wants to take the kids to their own meeting. If that little 19-year-old girl hadn't been in that meeting 15 years ago, I'd have been dead. Because I was gone. And she sat down and laughed with me and smiled and was just, and they put a roll of paper towels by the table while I kept spilling my coffee. I was getting a little quick, you know, I'm detoxing in that room right there. And they went around the room, guys, that night to Reader's Digest Condensed. They didn't have like a first step meeting where we talked about, well, how did you get here? So I could listen to everybody's stupid-ass war stories again. What they did, guys, I'm here. They don't need to scare me back into these rooms. I'm already here. I don't need to hear another war story. I've identified. You got me. You'll follow me? Here's what I needed to hear. They went around the room and some select people shared briefly about the power of God in their life today as a result of working the steps. As a result of sitting in meetings, and not just sitting in meetings, but participating in a thing called the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, guys, I've been in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous for 7 years and not been able to get well. But I entered the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that night. And they started telling me how by working the steps, they had spiritual experiences and started getting the good stuff back in their life. And they asked me at the end of that meeting, Chris, do you want to stay sober the rest of your life? And I said, absolutely. They didn't say one day at a time, folks. They said, do you want to stay sober the rest of your life? I was detoxing pretty hard by that time, and they could see it. And they followed me home to make sure I got home okay. And the next morning, they were there on my doorstep to follow me back over to the AA meeting. That morning, we did a 3rd step prayer, still detoxing. And they gave me the information on to do a 4th step. Not a little guide, a little 4th step, right straight out of the book. They had a little notebook for me and a piece of paper and says, we're going to show you how to do a 4th step. You'll follow me? Second day, I'm trying to get sober, and I'm already working on a 4th step. I've done more work in the steps in 2 days than I've done in the last 7 years. Because let me tell you what happened, folks. I finally, for the first time in my life, landed in a room full of people that loved me enough to tell me the truth. They didn't give a rat's ass about my sensitive little feelings. They had watched me die. They weren't going to watch me die any longer. They'd put it to me point blank. Do you want to get well or not? Because if you want to get well, we're going to ask you to do some work. And I said, yes, I'd do it. Guys, I got to tell you, 2 weeks later, I've got a completed 4th step. I'm ready to do a 5th step that Saturday with my sponsor. It's already lined out. I'm ready to go. I drove home that night. It was a Friday night, 2 weeks to the day after I tried to commit suicide. I walked back I got out of that meeting, went into my truck, drove home, great rock and roll music coming out of you know what I'm saying? It was just one of those nights. It's just like, God dang, life is good. It's more that God's grace. I got out of my truck up here in North Texas, and I pulled the tailgate down, and I sat down because I'm in no hurry. And I looked at that big old full moon up there in North Texas, and I looked around at the 7-Eleven and the Stop and Go and the place where I had a liquor store where I had a tab. Y'all with me? And I looked at the apartment complex where I live that my drug dealer lives in. It's a Friday night, and I got a pocket full of money, and I don't live with nobody, remember? And I got all this cash, and I can go get me a beer and some bump right now, and nobody is going to know about it. But you know what the difference is this time? This time, for the first time in 7 years, I get taken to a place where I don't want to drink and I don't want to drug. I'm going to tell you what happened. Sometime in that 2-week period, going to meetings every night, working with sponsors that had me diligently in the work, answering the phone at the club, vacuuming the floor, doing what they asked me to do, participating. The obsession to drink and drug was lifted from me and has never returned since. And that's the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's the miracle of that's what Bill Wilson tried to describe in the Big Book, and Dr. Bob and the rest of these cats. They tried to describe a state of being where we would be placed in a position of neutrality. And then I didn't have to worry about what happened out there. I mean, I got to say it and close up, guys. I mean, what kind of a crappy program are we talking about up here if you can only stay sober when things are good? Because I got news for you. There's going to be some days when things are just going to go shit. Are you going to have the power to stay sober through that too? You are if you work the steps. You are if you recover from alcoholism and drug addiction. Some of you cats in this gathering right now are still obsessing about alcohol and drugs. You're forcing yourself. You're just staying away one day at a time. I'm telling you, there's another way to do it. You will not succeed doing it that way. The only way that we understand that this is permanent is if we have the thing called a spiritual experience. Hallelujah for that. I'll say it. Alcoholics Anonymous right now is at a turning point. We have a very strong opportunity to help a lot of people get well. For years, the treatment centers have been taking a bad rap. Everybody believes that the treatment centers are going to fix what's wrong with us. And the truth of the matter is, insurance companies... You know, guys, 9/11 did a lot of stuff to this country. It shook a lot of people. It also damaged the insurance companies. And 9/11 caused the insurance companies to pull back big time. And now what we're seeing in our facilities in Texas, and they're seeing them all over the country where I speak, insurance companies are just flat getting tough to pay for any kind of treatment. And so the solution is going to be for a lot of people, our brothers and sisters that are still out there hurting, they're going to come into our fellowships to get the solution. Just like they did for the first 60 years that we were in business out here. You'll follow us? When they come into the fellowship, when that alcoholic that cannot stay away from the booze comes into that noon meeting, when that crack addict comes into a Cocaine Anonymous meeting or Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and she's been smoking crack cocaine and she's lost everything and she's just so demoralized and she desperately needs some power. I hope there's some people in that room that are taking the heat out there and carrying big books and are going to stand for something and show them how to have a spiritual experience. Because what we need in the trenches with us right now are a lot more spiritual mentors and a few less junior therapists. You'll follow us? The book says we have recovered and been given the power to help others. And that's the coolest thing about it. Everybody I've met here, you have the ability to help somebody else. Guys, everybody's not going to hear the solution from me. I've said it from a million podiums. You know, you want to set yourself apart because you're shy or because you haven't gone low enough down the scale or not. You say, well, I can't help anybody. Listen, buddy, you share your story with a newcomer, and I'm telling you what, there's a point of identification that's there. I've watched it too many times. Walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and there's 20 men in the room. Where are the women? The woman that just walked to the door, she didn't want to hear the solution from a man. She's scared to death of men. She wanted to hear the solution from a sister that had been through the same shit she'd been through. Oh, I forget. I'm sorry. You had to take the kids to the Little League, didn't you? My book says that when we put recovery first, we get everything we ever wanted back. My experience shows that we can take the kids to Little League and still go to the meeting. My experience shows me we can still be in a loving relationship and still go to meetings. We can still work at jobs and make a lot of money and still go to meetings. And be there armed with a big book, ready to convey the facts of how to get well to the newcomer. Come on, guys. We need some people standing in the trenches with us. We need some people standing. I'm going to tell you this and shut up. Everybody in this room that's ever carried a big book in a meeting or a basic text of Narcotics Anonymous into a meeting and have taken some shit from somebody, I'm going to tell you something. I love you. I love you for taking the heat. Because anytime you stand for spiritual principles, somebody's going to take your freaking inventory. Somebody's going to talk down about you. Somebody's going to try to tell people to stay away from you because you're one of those big book thumpers. But guys, this is the solution. This is the message. We've got a lot of people out there in the fellowships wanting to talk about an experience they've never had. You follow me? A lot of people around the fellowship talking about experiences they've never had. I don't want to talk to you tonight or this weekend when we're visiting about an experience I had 15 years ago with the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to tell you about an experience that I'm having today in a new relationship with a woman. I want to tell you about an experience that I'm having with the 10th step in my meditative life in the 11th step. I want to tell you about working with others today, not 15 years ago, not my stupid dumpster stories. I want to talk to you about the power of God today. Because that can pull the newcomer with a vision and get him to come to this meeting and stay in this meeting. I love every one of you. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sober Sunrise. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a thumbs up as it will help share the message. Until next time, have a great day.